Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be covering some of the information regarding Final Fantasy XV's content roadmap, which was revealed this last weekend at PAX East 2018. Before we get started, two things. One, I will be talking about some later game occurrences from both the normal and royal editions of the game, so spoiler warning now. Turn it off if you don't want any spoilers. Two, we're using Nova Chrysalis' website, their article, in order to display the information that was present at the panel itself. So I do this plenty of times, so usual thing is go to the description of the video, find the source, follow them because they post tons of stuff all the time, and also be sure to give their website hits, likes, all that good stuff in support of this article. But without further ado, let's get into it because there is quite a bit to talk about. First thing, new crossover event with Tomb Raider. That's all we know is that it's going to happen. There's like one graphic and it's just Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and then there's nothing else. So we will probably find out more about that in the coming weeks or months. As for the next batch of episodic DLC, they have announced 4 of them. And some of them are what you expect, and almost all of them are also not what you expect. I will explain. So the 4 DLCs will be Arden, Lunafreya, Noctis, and also a shorter side story episode with Aranea. So we have the descriptions of each of those here, but I'm sure when you see episode Noctis, you're probably pretty confused because last I checked, all of Final Fantasy XV was episode Noctis. Now it says here the underlying concept for each episode is to realize a future everyone longed for. And to back that statement up further, across these new episodes, the theme of an alternate grand finale to the storyline is to be explored, which director Hajime Tabata had hinted at back in February after asking fans what kind of alternate ending they'd like to see. So while we're going to learn more about these characters in these episodes, they are not necessarily going to change what is considered the canon ending of Final Fantasy XV. They will be used to explore the hardships and the emotions of these characters while building towards something that is brand new altogether. Now, how that actually turns out, we don't know, but we can start to piece it together based on the descriptions provided for the 4 episode DLCs. Let's get into it. Episode 1, Arden, The Conflict of a Sage. That's going to be coming out in winter of this year, but the rest of them will be coming out in spring of 2019. Now, this story portrays the struggles of Arden, witness the resentment he harbored towards Lucis for over 2,000 years, and his clashes with the Astrals. Now, we knew episode Arden would be focusing on Arden's origins. We don't get to see the events of 2,000 years prior, where the line of Lucis was established, the crystal was granted, and the idea of eventually having a one true king to banish the Star Scourge for good is born. We will be exploring that history, although from Arden's perspective, and understanding why he hates the line of Lucis and the Astrals, and pretty much everything as much as he does. Reminder that ultimately this will be working towards the alternate ending to the game. Now, the episode side story for Aranea, while they do say the underlying concept for each episode is to realize a future everyone longed for, the side story is hard to tell where that actually plays a role. It looks like it's simply portraying Aranea's perspective of Niflheim's demise. Now, the good thing about that is that Niflheim's demise doesn't necessarily have to change over the course of Aranea's side story. I have a feeling that no matter what happens, Niflheim will still fall to the same fate. So while that is still working towards this, I guess, alternate grand finale, that will probably be one of the episodes where we don't really have to pick and choose things that are probably different from the main game itself. Not to say there won't be, but it's one I don't expect to have to dissect nearly as much. It's also shorter than the other ones, so we don't really know how short that actually ends up being. Episode 2 itself is Lunafreya, and this one's a choice of freedom. Now, this one is where I feel like they really give away what the ultimate goal is of this alternate grand finale, although we still had an idea even prior to reading this. So this will come out in spring of 2019, just like Aranea, and this story is about Luna's fate, which not even death can free her from. Her battle to save the one she loves overturns the destiny dealt to the Lucian King. Now, as you play Royal Edition, you do actually encounter Lunafreya in the afterlife, and she assists you throughout the final dungeon, or specifically at one major point. And a lot of people have wondered how this actually comes to be. You know, she just kind of transcends death to, you know, do this thing for you. And you know what, in, you know, JRPGs, it's not really all that surprising to see something play out like this, but we'll be diving into what is actually happening in her afterlife and what she's doing to what seems like prevent Noctis from actually having to sacrifice his life at the end of the game. Now, this is sort of hinted at in episode Ignis that he somehow attains this. We never really sure exactly how it happens. When he enters the crystal, he saves Ignis from his demise. Ravis doesn't, basically episode Ignis seems to be what this finale is ultimately working towards. We can't say that for certain, but there are some similarities here, and this would, what seems to me, fill in some of the gaps between how things even unfold and end up the way they do in the alternate ending of episode Ignis. Now, for episode 3, Noctis, the final strike, parting way with the Astrals, Noctis embarks upon his final battle in order to attain the ideal future for all of his people. Now that ultimately just sounds like chapter 14 of the main game, but if we are under the idea that episode Noctis will again be this alternate grand finale and that this is supposed to be the happier ending, we could probably assume that this will fill in the remaining gaps that the episode Ignis alternate ending actually created. Parting ways with the Astral sounds like leaving Angel Guard. Noctis embarks on his final battle to attain an ideal future for all his people. So again, it just sounds like he wants to make sure there's a king and a kingdom to actually take care of things when all is done. So we'll actually get to, it seems like, figure out all the things that were intended for that alternate ending set up by episode Ignis, which a lot of people have said they wish was the actual ending of the game. Which ending you like, I'll leave that discussion for another video. But one thing I've heard people saying, and I wasn't physically at the panel because I had other obligations, so I've seen people say that this image here at the top is supposed to represent that grand finale, the happy ending. And you can see Prompto taking pictures with Ignis over there, or what seems like Ignis over there. It looks like King Regis and Noctis, and you know, this looks to be representing the happy ending that ultimately comes to be. And I'm sorry, that's not, well, they could be, but those are, I don't know, because it looks like young Noctis is holding Arden's leg, but it could just be older Noctis shaved his face, and then that's their next kid, and then that's Luna's daughter. And there's certain ways I want to interpret this. I just interpret it as this is almost like years after everything is said and done, but at the same time, we never see Luna Freya at the end of episode Ignis, so there's still questions about the way this all actually pans out. But I've heard people say that this artwork is supposed to be a depiction of that alternate grand finale, so I'm curious to see how that actually pans out. And then all this right here, this is the roadmap. Another thing about that's mentioned in this roadmap is that Final Fantasy 15 Comrades will actually release a standalone version this summer. Now, it doesn't say, does it say anywhere if that's for both PC and PS4? It does not. I actually still stand to this day that the Comrades multiplayer was actually better than expected. It wasn't anything crazy good, but it was nice to see it. It's just you had to have the main game in order to play it. So it looks like they'll be remedying that as people enjoyed it quite a bit and give it its own standalone version. It also looks like it's going to be getting 2 new content updates, and I believe those content updates are actually covered in a little more detail over in the other article we're going to be checking out in this video. Now, also, you can see episode 1, Arden's release, you know, winter 2018, and then you can see Aranea, Luna Freya, Noctis, all releasing pretty close together from 2018 going into 2019. So it's weird because it looks like episode 1, Arden, is, even though it said winter 2018, it looks like in this graph it's actually towards closer to January, February, because it's in the 2019 section, but who knows how exactly accurate this is intended to be. Now, going on, this is by the way, the art for Shadow of the Tomb Raider coming soon. You know, whatever. We'll know more about this in the near future. The other article that Nova Chrysalis has here is the other half of what was talked about. Now, the main portion of the panel was actually supposed to just talk about how the game plans to support modders, because Final Fantasy 15, when we heard it was hitting PC, we heard there were going to be mod tools, and there hasn't really been much development on that since it actually launched. However, in fall this year, people are going to be getting what's called the Level Ebony Editor, which will allow them to produce all new content, including the creation of custom-made areas, simple quest designs, initiating events and or actions when players interact with certain objects. They show that you can do custom chocobo races and even have Noctis playing a golf mini game. I'm already thinking about taking the off-road Regalian, making courses for that. Not myself, but like possibilities. Obviously people trying to create areas that would resemble the unexplored areas in Final Fantasy 15 itself. For example, the areas after Chapter 9. So I'm excited to see what people can come up with and to see how, I guess, well, this whole level editor thing actually works. They have some images here, which unfortunately when I blow them up, they don't really show all that well, so we'll just try to show them like this, where you can see them sort of modifying the areas and placing objects from their folders. 2018 fall, you can see like a new weapon, like he's holding a Cactuar sword. You have the organizer, the actual tool for making the weapon itself. I accidentally clicked it to be full screen again. And you can see here a placing of enemies, placing of items, creations of sequences, camera controls. You can see more of the level editor tools. You can see the placing of enemies as an example, the placing of items. You can see him playing golf. So a bunch of different things. So a lot of possibilities for people to come up with their own content to extend the life of Final Fantasy 15 past the actual end of its development, which who the hell knows when that'll actually be. On top of that, some other updates that aren't necessarily mod related, but the character creator from the multiplayer version will be hitting the main. You'll be able to use it for the main story of the game. It specifically says on PC, so I guess they couldn't get that to work for the PS4 version. But the PC version, you'll be able to use the character creator and play through the main game, changing Noctis's appearances. Windows Edition will see mod support, upload their weapons and outfits to the Steam Workshop. Square Enix also announced that PC players will be able to place user treasure all across the game's world, hiding bonus items for other players to find and collect. The longer it takes for players to find the item, the better it will become. So you can do things like scavenger hunts and stuff like that to find rare items. And these features specifically will be released in spring. Now we can see more of these pictures. You can see Noctis, Kenny the Crow back there. Just a few more images. You know, new boots. Those are, I guess, a custom designed boot. No, I guess those are actually just the normal boots. There's Noctis as Kenny. I'm glad they keep using Kenny as the example, and I'm glad they continue to keep using Kenny. But you can see some other, like, weird appearances showing off behind, sort of in the silhouette to see the Chocobo suit. And, of course, you had to... Dude, if I see that Chocobo sword one more time... Oh, man. Stop doing it with that one. Show something else. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, and then these are the user treasures that are just thrown all over the place. So those are just a few more examples. They really are proud of that Cacto sword, aren't they? Comrades will be coming to Windows. Oh, so it specifically will be coming to the Windows Edition as a standalone version this summer. And the game will receive an update in the summer, followed by a second update in the winter. So this will add new content. This isn't just them taking the base Comrades and adding the updates we already got. There will apparently be brand new updates to it as well. You can see here that they're including a raid boss. Looks like the Adamantoise will become one of the bosses. And there will be new types of battle challenges. You can see some of the larger and more difficult enemies over here, as well as lots of boss additions. Now, it says lots. I'm trying to determine everything I'm seeing right here. Obviously, you can see Gilgamesh on the left. You can see the CEO of Square Enix on the right, which we were told we would get as a boss a long time ago. If I'm not mistaken, I see Omega back there as well. And it looks like the rulers of Yor are back there. And I'm having a hard time discerning what all of them are. I can definitely recognize the Rogue and the Mystic, Omega. I'm having a hard time telling what the other ones are. It looks like the third ruler of your boss is there. And there's like one that I can't 100% identify. So be sure to let me know what you guys think all of the bosses are back there. But there could be even more different things that I'm not even aware of. But so lots of things coming for Final Fantasy 15 next year. Lots of news, lots of stuff, lots of coverage we'll be doing here on the channel. The mods, I'm 50-50 about how I want to handle coverage of those. If we want to highlight mods that I really enjoy, I'm not a huge modder overall, but I am curious to see what people can create in Final Fantasy 15, especially when it comes to areas that would take the place of, I guess, alternate areas in like the main game. You know, like I've seen what Elder Scrolls does, literally making a full expansion for the Elder Scrolls game. So I'm optimistic of what people can create for Final Fantasy 15, because that could be crazy. But anyway, that's it. That's all the coverage we have for now, and hopefully in the coming weeks and months I'll have more information for you regarding the stuff that's happening in Final Fantasy 15. So be sure to let me know what you like and don't like in the comment section below. I'm sure I'm going to love reading those later. And yeah, be sure to go check out the source in the description again. But I will see all of you fine, ladies and gentlemen, in the next video, Final Fantasy 15 or not. So until then, take care.